You're listening to 4CRB's interviews and talkback series.
Welcome to the microphone, welcome to the studio, Supreme Court Judge David Ashton-Lewis.
Well, as always, Colin, thank you for having me, and welcome to all the listeners. What enticing topic topics are we discussing?
We've discussed a great
morning?
many things, mate. During the week, you touched on Grace Tame. You've touched on politicians not answering questions. So we're going to do our normal thing where we wander all over the page.
Oh, that's really good. Now, we always wander all over the page, but I do have to tell the listeners, I probably in about a fortnight, I may be going into hospital for 2 weeks. So will you be replaying old ones of ours, or we'll have a break for 2 weeks?
Look, we've got our fundraising event next week, so we'll assess that at the time as to whether we just play an old one or whether we take a break.
Well, for any Christians out there, particularly good, decent Christian men and women, pray for me, because this is serious surgery. And I'll be frank with you, I'm frightened.
Oh, well, there you go, David. We'll be praying for you. We know you're going to come through the other side.
That's nice.
And you've already signed on for U3A for a little bit longer. So at the end of the day, I'm sure you're confident of coming through.
All right, Grace Tame. What a sadness. This young woman was badly molested and groomed as a 15-year-old girl by a disgraceful teacher in her school in Tasmania. Now, that leaves a mark, and I know if Clive Wall is listening to this, having those type of offences, and I won't go any further, but what she was groomed for is quite obvious, by an older male.
It leaves a scar forever.
It does. And so I commend her for her courage and her bravery. I didn't agree with her complete, seemingly unquestioning support of Brittany Higgins, and there was enough evidence coming out that cast a shadow of doubt over Brittany Higgins' claim. But life has moved on from that. Miss Higgins, I think, lives in France with her boyfriend or her partner, and I read recently they're bankrupt. Now, that's a tragedy because she was paid well. But anyway, no one would wish unhappiness upon anyone. And if Brittany Higgins is able to go on with her life, that's good. Grace Tame has gone on with her life and gone on so well that, 2023? Can't remember. She was Young Australian of the Year, and quite rightly she should have been. She was a model to every woman, not just young, to every woman in the country, because she is a strong woman, and I admired that. Well, sadly, Miss Tame, to me, has not helped herself with her behaviour in front of pro-Palestinian protesters, and using words such as from the river to the sea, globalise the Intifada. Now, those words are now against the law, and they were when she said it. I've been saddened again by the seemingly no action of the government against her. Now, the action I would have expected from the government is bringing her in, the Prime Minister, Attorney General and others speaking to her and saying, for heaven's sake, young lady, don't do this. You hold a high honour. You are an Australian of the Year.
People look up to you.
They do. And everyone will look up to you. But the way the photograph of you shouting with your mouth wide open, shouting words that are inappropriate and that are simply illegal, and nothing seems to have happened. I don't want anything bad to happen to you. I know there are people calling for her to be stripped of her award of the Australian of the Year. I would say to them, how many of you are without fault? We may not have made the same mistake as high profile. She's to be forgiven for that. She is to be spoken to, and hopefully she's contrite. if she ever behaved like that again, I would be supportive. Her view about Palestinian problem, Israeli problem, she's entitled to have it. That's what Australia is all about. But she is not to impose it in breach of the law. I'd rather she just keep her thoughts to herself. And so what I would say, I'd give her another chance, but I hope she's been spoken to.
David, have you had a chance to have a look at the new hate speech
I
laws?
haven't. What I've seen so far is those words are illegal. They are a breach of the law, but it's aimed against groups.
I'm going to want to, I think we should.
And it doesn't seem to be aimed against individuals.
No, but I think what
I have
we
a
should do
comment
is,
to make on that.
yeah, I think what we should do is devote a show to that.
Yes, I
because,
agree.
Again, there is a lack of understanding. Again, we have freedom of speech in this
Yes.
country. But again, you can't go out and say, I'm going to kill you,
No, you
because
can't.
someone will take you to task on that.
Yeah.
So freedom of speech, but there are guardrails and there are
How
limits.
many times have we said it when we've spoken? All freedoms are not absolute. They are tempered with restraint. And, of course, we have the law of defamation. And it means you can't speak freely. I can't go out, and if I hear rumours that a particular headmaster of a girls' school is misbehaving, I can't go out and accuse that or make a comment on that. There are defences to it. So none of our freedoms are absolute. And I agree with you. I think we should do a show on it because it's so important to our freedoms in this country.
Yeah, people hear freedom of speech and they think it's an absolute.
Yes.
And it should be defined. And looking at this law, I think it's a great show.
Well, what I ask is this. As far as I can find out at the moment, these laws they've passed the Parliament. They are applied against groups. So if a group, and naturally the group would be the Australian Nazis. Now, I wonder, though, had a Nazi, one individual, been standing up, or a right-wing troublemaker, been standing up and saying, kill all Jews, get them out of Australia. And they're not even, you'd have to interpret the law, but I guarantee you that person would have been arrested, and someone's saying, but hang on, it's against a group, the Nazi Party. That would have gone nowhere. That person would have been arrested. The journalism would have plastered it everywhere.
And look,
I think that leads us in. Oh, sorry.
I was going to say, and we'll move into journalism because I think it's going to be a great show talking about freedoms of speech, and we'll be able to pull apart those facets.
Yes, let's do that. And that comment that I just made leads into both, we've talked before, and it probably needs to be spoken of pretty regularly, the quality and the impartiality and the balance of journalism today, print media, voice media, vision media, because it certainly doesn't appear to be balanced. Now, I could be wrong. Show me that I'm wrong. We have freedom of speech in this country. Show me that I'm wrong. And the other thing, of course, I watched the Labor Finance Minister being questioned Federal Labor Finance Minister, being questioned in a Senate committee, obviously by a Liberal senator. And I watched the most appalling example. If you are the finance minister of this country, you jolly well shouldn't be. Because a simple question was put, and we see this all the time. I'm using this as an example. Again, this person sits at the pinnacle of governance of the Commonwealth of Australia, of the people of the Commonwealth of Australia, holding an important portfolio, and was very proudly speaking about how under this particular minister's watch they'd saved $114 million. $1 billion, sorry. And the senators said, was that gross savings or net savings? And I listened to just rambling foolishness, not addressing the question. So the questioner waited for a bit and said, I ask you again, was that gross savings or net savings. Again, this minister rambled on, but had to lean and speak to an advisor, and you could hear muted, it's gross savings. And so this minister turned around and said, it's gross savings, as if that's something really good. And then the questioner kept asking about it, and so that minister said, and we've been really good. We've taken those savings and we've spent that money on other things, and we've been able to highlight really important. And so the questioner said, so you've spent that money. You've spent the 114 billion, which you wouldn't have spent. You've spent the 114 billion net, and you've spent it. So you haven't saved anything. and the answer was, I just said we have saved 114 billion. The questioner said, but you haven't, because you've spent it. You've used it on something else. So where are the savings in that? And I thought, for heaven's sake, if we're going to have to put up with this. So I say to all the listeners out there, this is the standard of politics today.
Oh, and the standard of journalism, if you ask me,
yes.
as well.
Yeah.
And we've been talking about this for a number of weeks. I've started to retract away from televised news, and that is just because it does feel like we're just going to embarrass, or we're going to corner, or we're going to find a way to have the aide have to step in and whisper in his ear because this politician didn't ask all the right questions. It shouldn't be.
No, you're right.
A cardinal sin.
But it's
to not
worse
know.
than that, because I watch it. When you said to me months ago, I won't watch now the news because of these things. I do watch the news. If you're watching the ABC, it is totally leftward leaning.
Yes, it is.
And they'll go gentle with any, and their current affairs shows, they will go gently with any Labor politician. Watch them questioning a right side of the chamber politician, and then it brings us to what we've talked about before. Journalism should be neutral.
Well, this is the battle, though, isn't it, David? Conflict of interest, and that's a term we've run up against in a number of areas, appears everywhere, and it can be just from the point of view, and we go to an election. Now, we know that the public servants in this country will vote for the incumbent party because they don't want to go through the upheaval of change.
Well, we don't know that, but we think it.
Well, that's how it's been portrayed to me. I was a Defence Force contractor for many years and witnessed the Defence Force get more money from the Liberal Party. So therefore, the powers that be say we need to vote Liberal because if this affects your vocation.
Yes.
So skew is in everything that we do. Now, you can see it with respect to the media. The head of Channel 9 at the time was the ex-treasurer of the Liberal Party. Now, you can't say that there isn't some sort of conflict of interest there. And I'm not saying that he did the wrong thing or made any comment to say that we need to be more favourable to the Liberal Party, but I think just watching the standard of journalism, you could say that they do.
Well, I think that's fair. And so, look, humans are humans, and a journalist will have their own proclivity. They'll either be leftward leaning or rightward leaning. That's fine. You don't ask them to give that up. But do not get in there and become a spokesperson for your political party or your political leaning. Just ask the questions, search them out. And even if you ask a question and they give an answer, you watch this, when they give an answer, the person being questioned that might be anti-Liberal or anti-Labor, watch the journalist, depending on the station you're on, really seek to flatten that person, because you can see the journalist is definitely leftward leaning or rightward leaning, and that's why. Oh, here's another good one. You either like Pauline Hanson or you don't. That's irrelevant. She has been elected to the Australian Senate by people who obviously like her and support her. Now, Pauline Hanson has been on a bandwagon over two politicians, Miss Fatima Payman and this, and I'm interested to watch this one, and Faruqi. Now, they're both Muslim Australians. I couldn't care less for whether they were Calathumpians. Their religion is their business. But questions have been raised about both of them being in breach of Section 44 of the Constitution, which means you cannot hold dual citizenship.
Sure.
I haven't seen or followed closely Miss Faruqi's statements because whenever Pauline Hanson raises it, they descend into racist, Islamophobia, and you're a witch hunter, and then journalism
runs from it.
runs with it.
Yes.
It's the left-wing journalism. And you want to say to them, well, have you bothered to search out, is there truth in what Pauline Hanson is saying and what she is saying? Now, I noticed that for a number of weeks, Ms. Fatema Payman has just responded with that. You're a racist. You're a bigot. Yeah, and Pauline Hanson,
the question, and we won't have to ask any
to her
longer.
credit, just says basically that, keeps asking the question. And during the early part of this week, Ms. Payman came out and said, I've done everything I can to renounce my Afghan citizenship. One, that isn't an answer to the question. And two, even if you have, and you haven't been able to renounce it, young lady, leave the Senate because you are in breach of the law.
Correct.
And so, but no journalist picks that up. All the journos so far pick up, leave her alone. She's in here to represent a sizable portion of the Australian community. Now, my answer is that is good, but not against the law.
Correct. I agree with you. Look, and that's the issue we're highlighting. We're not actually diving after the facts and following the facts to its logical conclusion. What we're doing is chasing what's popular and what's generating people's interest or outrage, for want of a better term. Again, I look at what we do here at 4CRB, and both you and I, David, have our own personal opinions on anything and everything. But whenever we go into the studio, we try to be as even as we possibly can.
Well, we try, and that's up to our listeners to assess.
When we have the local politicians involved with the station has a policy that the community deserves to hear from their leaders, whether they agree with them or not.
Yes.
And it's up to the listener to query those politicians and ask the questions that they would like answered. Otherwise, we're just providing information that they would like delivered.
We're providing a platform
Yes.
for party politics.
Yes.
And our job is not to do that. Our job is, we're not investigative journalists, but our job is to ask the same questions of everyone.
Correct.
Maybe raise a query in relation to it, but it's not to be spokespeople. Well,
It's not to embarrass or corner or
for
generate
the
a
Liberal
headline.
Party,
No.
exactly right.
Going back to our
Yes.
journalism comments, so I, as I've said to you, I've turned off the television to a point. Maybe it's on in the background, but it does frustrate me from time to time.
Can I try something?
No, bear with me.
All right.
Bear with me. I'm reading the Daily Oz now, which is a publication on the internet, and I'm finding a difference in my attitude. The attitude being that I can digest the articles at my own rate,
Yes.
and they're not forced upon me in a rapid fire component.
Yes.
And the level of journalism, while I won't say it's at the calibre of Channel 9 or Channel 7 or any of those, is a lot higher than what we've been experiencing on the television. So you do actually get to hear both sides of the argument in most respects, even though there are a few of those difficult questions being posed, and hopefully we might get a sticky answer or an answer that generates a headline. But you get to digest it at your own rate, and it is a difference in mentality when you're digesting news.
But here's the problem, because what many modern journalists would say, so you're not interested in hearing divergent views. You've said you stopped watching television because you just got sick of it. So you're really only interested then in hearing one view. Now, do you see how I've twisted that?
You have, absolutely.
I have.
Yeah.
Now,
I was about to say, do you want a job as a journalist?
Yes, I think I might apply. Because this is what modern journalism does.
Correct.
And it really is, now that's why I loved watching Bob Hawke deal with journalists, because he would not step back. He'd make statements like, "Are you stupid? Have you not listened to what I was saying?" "Oh, I have." And then listen again. And I won't even bother talking to you if you haven't got the intellectual. He was really good. And so that's what journalism does, what I just did to you. You consider yourself a fair and balanced. "Oh, yes, I am," says Colin Walewski, "but you won't listen to competing views." Now, the answer to that is I will, but I won't listen to biased, really spokespeople for one view.
Look, I think the bit that gets me is that journalism should be not something that we're out to try and trick people into understanding. You need to understand the table, or you need to understand how things work to understand the way modern journalism works in a political environment where they should just be delivering the facts, and whether you are the highest of intellect or the lowest of intellect, you're just
matter.
getting the facts, right? You can actually
Yes.
have a rudimentary understanding.
Yes. Well, sorry, I cut you off.
So the point being is, and you'll hear this, that the opposition will stand there and say that we're here to keep the government honest. But any question of we've inherited this from the previous
don't
government.
you get sick
Hang
of
on a
that?
minute. No, we don't want to talk about that. We're just here to keep the current government honest.
Yes.
Sorry, that is how our government works. The previous guys did one thing. They should be culpable for what's happened, and not say, "Oh no, that's not our responsibility." Now this is this guy's responsibility.
Don't blame everything that now you're being accused of. "Oh, it's all because of a previous government."
That's right.
I detest that.
I do too.
Because it's inequitable, it's unfair, and it's irresponsible, and it's immature. It's like a child when questioned, "Why did you do this?" "Oh, don't blame me, Mum. It was because Colin did it."
That's right.
Yeah, you would hear that and say, "No, I'm talking to you."
That's desperately frustrating. And
It
again,
is.
while you can say we inherited a difficult environment, we're working to make it better for the people.
Well, even better than that, we inherited an environment that really aimed to do the particular job well. We had a policy that we believe we could improve upon it.
Perfect.
And that is what we are doing. And we might fall, we might make mistakes, but no one says this. And I know that it's because of party politics.
Yes.
I would like to see that you can't enter the Australian Parliament unless you're an independent. So the House of Representatives are all independents.
I'd love to see the melee of
happen.
getting anything done, though, and everybody's an independent.
Of course.
Look, we've talked about it in the past, David, and that career politicians are part of the problem, because basically, if you want to stay in politics is the aim, right? If you're a career politician,
That's
I want
your
to
job.
be. I want to be in a job.
Yes.
So again, the compromise here is I'm not here for the good of the people, although that's my job.
Well, imagine-
I'm actually here to make sure that I stay in one.
And imagine if a qualification to stand for an election to the House of Representatives, you had to show that you had and been employed in the public, the private sector for 10 years. You had another job. That 10 years would satisfy two criteria. Oh, well, you do have some experience in banking or finance or defence or what, like you worked for the Department of Defence as a contractor. So, well, that'll show that. And the other thing, it will show that you have experience. You look at these. I was shocked when I was told, I haven't checked this, that something like up to a half of the current politicians in the Parliament have never had a job outside politics.
Wow. That's
Party
very interesting.
politics,
And
that.
again, how would you actually understand the point of view of a small business owner or someone who's worked as an employee for their entire life? There's those perspectives do need to be understood.
I think so, yes.
And taken on board when generating policy. Well, it's been an interesting discussion, David. A little bit of a summary.
Well, look, I think it can be summarised up in politicians have to stop avoiding direct questions. They have to show that they've heard the question, they understand it, and they can answer it, rather than sidetracking to other things. Politicians should be required to spend a period of years outside in the public or private sector before they so arrogant think they can stand up and represent me. I'm retiring from the law in December. That will be 51 years in the law. And I know a reasonable bit about the law, and so that will infect my views of life and what we are doing. So that, and the question finally of the response to statements like what young Grace Tame did. Not being overheated, but being balanced. And we need to look at all these things in our public life.
David Ashton Lewis, thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. How many?
You've been listening to 4CRB's interviews and talkback series. Support local online content and become a financial supporter today at 4crb.com.